I'm going to continue being the way I am, but you need to get back in the car because you're negatively affecting the children. Hey guys, if you're enjoying our videos, don't forget,
like and subscribe below.
Hey y'all, this is Charles and Z. We're going to do a short one for you tonight. We're really kind of tired. However, we wanted to talk about something that happened yesterday before it slipped our minds because it was just too good to let go. Do you want to start?
No, I'll let you start.
Okay. So there was an incident. We were taking the kids yesterday morning out to see friends. So they're new friends to us, and they have a family house out on the beach. And so we're taking our kids out there early in the morning. We're supposed to be there at like 9 a.m. And getting the kids ready is always kind of a cluster. I tend to overthink things and I tend to freak out a little bit. And plus, my dad was over here, and he wasn't going with us, mind you, but he was kind of supervising the operation of getting the van packed, getting the kids ready to go, and making little remarks, making little comments about like that we're going to be late, about like how long it's taking for us to get ready and stuff like that. And I was probably not in the best mood.
Correct.
Yeah, I was not in the best mood. So we finally get the kids loaded up in the car at like 8:45, and we're supposed to be where we're going at 9, and where we're going is 45 minutes away. And so we get in the car and we're going down the road, and I I look at Z. I say, I get really stressed when we're getting ready to go places, and I probably get really worked up, and I shouldn't do that. I should do better. I was being a little introspective, and I was saying, I look at the way that I'm behaving. I'm getting worked up, and I recognize that this isn't the way that I'm supposed to be, I'm like halfway apologizing for being anxious and my effect on those around me. And then instead of just kind of like going along with it, Z goes, well, but it's not just this situation. Anytime that you get ready to go on trips, you get frustrated, and it's not just this. I'm trying to remember exactly what you said, but you basically told me it's like a pattern of behavior, and so my analysis is not sufficient.
So I told you while we were driving, I think this is a pattern of behavior and had nothing to do with packing up the kiddos. I just didn't quite understand it, right? And I was also venting a little bit because I just went through the whole morning getting the kids together and trying to ignore his stress, so to speak. So I was venting a little bit too. Once we were peaked kind of in our argument or disagreement, that's when he hit the, well, I was trying to apologize. Prior to that, this is my recollection, there was no I apologize, right? Okay.
Well, correct. I was saying how my behavior was wrong, and I recognize that, but I don't think that I said the words, I apologize for this. I was working up to an apology when Z started telling me about how it's a pattern of behavior, and I'm not actually acknowledging all of the bad things that I do.
And like I said, I was also venting. I was also venting, right? And yes, maybe it wasn't the time for him to hear that, but in my vent, of course, I'm the one to point out if I think there is a pattern of behavior. And so in that moment, yes, that was my observation. And so say what happened next.
Okay, so I got really pissed, and I turned the car around, And I said that I was not in the mood to go to this gathering and pretend like I'm okay. And if she was going to be like that with me, then she could just take the children and she could go to the gathering herself, and we would reconvene at a later time. And so I pulled into a parking lot in front of a grocery store, and I got out of the van and I left the keys in the driver's seat, and I walked off and I started working on calling an Uber.
So pretty much, right, while we're driving and we're already about 30 minutes late to this party, and pretty much he was saying, you need to accept my apology. I'm like, I'm not in a place to accept your apology. Well, drop me off at the side of the road. And I walk. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And anyone who knows me, and he knows this, I'm not a big driver. I'll drive out of necessity, but driving to some degree can give me anxiety, right? And so he turns around the vehicle, right, after we're already 30 minutes late, right, and goes into this parking lot and hops out. Mind you, the kids are like, when are we going to be there? I'm hot. I'm hungry. And is out of the car for a good, I don't know, at least 10 minutes,
Mm.
right?
You called me in like 2 minutes.
I did. And what I stated was that this was a day for the children, right? And you and I do not have to agree, right? We can have arguments. We are a couple and it's going to happen in the future. But to make our day, or to say that our day is going to be dictated by me accepting or not accepting your apology, I felt was very childish, right? I can have a disagreement with you, and us going to a party together does not mean that we're faking, that we're, right? This is an event for the children. If you know us, it's hard for us to make adult friends, right, with kiddos. So we were really excited to have a beach day. It was our youngest, his first time at the beach. And so I was really looking forward to this morning actually getting out there, chit chatting with some, new friends with young children. And he knew this, right? He knew this. And so I thought it was very manipulative. Well, accept my apology. That's what he was saying to me in the phone. After he jumped out and I called him on the phone, well, do you accept my apology? Do you accept my apology? And I was saying to him, no, I'm not in a place to accept your apology. Mentally, I'm not in a place. And this day is not about us or you feeling, you know, I don't know, you feeling hurt by my words, or, we can talk about that at a later time. But this was an event that's not even just you and I, that was including our children. And so, and I still do to some degree. I'm not going to lie. We've kind of made a little bit of peace now, but I still feel like it was a very childish way to go about things, right? I'm all about talking things out. But when you dangle something that was an important day, like a little carrot, accept my apology or no carrot, I felt like that was very manipulative. And if Charles, eventually Charles came back into the car, but if he would have left us there in the van, I don't know what, I don't know how our relationship would go. I'm going to be honest. I told you that on the phone. I was like, if you leave us here and we don't go, I don't know. I don't.
Listen, she was not that negatively affected by my anxiety. And there was no negative effects that were brought up until I started to apologize for being anxious about having to leave early and getting ready. And so I viewed her trying to antagonize me by not accepting a very simple apology for something that was of no real mentioned effect to her, and trying to dangle the kids. Oh, you better get back in the car because you're going to ruin the kids' day if you don't get back in the car. But yet she can't say, "Oh yeah, I accept your apology for this," or "I understand." I felt like I was being emotionally extorted because, like, oh well, you've got to get over how you feel, and I, Z, am not in the least bit responsible for my part in the situation. I'm going to continue being the way I am, but you need to get back in the car because you're negatively affecting the children. And if it had to been because I heard our son in the phone say, "I've got to go use the bathroom." I heard him in the car say, "I've got to go use the bathroom," and that's why I came back to the car, because I wanted to help him go into the store and use the bathroom. But if he hadn't had to use the bathroom, I would have gone on and called the Uber.
Yeah, and that's problematic, right? Because I wasn't telling you that you had to discard the way you felt, right? I said, let's talk about it at a later date.
Yes, let me act fake for a little bit so that you
That's
get
not
what you
acting
want.
fake, right? We're not saying in front of individuals, ooh, goo goo gaga, I love him so much. We're pretty much interacting with just talking with people, getting to know people, help with our kiddos as they're in the pool and out and about. That how's that being fake, right? I can coexist or be around even an individual that I don't like, right? And to me, that's not acting fake, right? If it's for the greater good. And it was a day that we had hyped up. The kiddos knew that we were going to the beach. We'd pack things up. So, yes, he was going to ruin the day for the kids. And I wasn't telling him that he wasn't allowed to feel how he felt, right? I was saying put aside your emotions until later, right? We can talk about it later. Let me ask you, do you think that was an appropriate action of you getting out the vehicle?
The problem with me is that I continually escalate when I feel like I'm being manipulated. And, you know, it would have been a very small move to the middle for you to meet me in the middle on that too.
First, answer my question, and then I have a follow up to that.
Okay.
Do you know what my original question was?
Your original question was it appropriate for me to get out of the vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. Um, it wasn't the most appropriate or the least appropriate response.
What does that mean?
That means it was somewhere in the middle of the spectrum.
Okay. Is that a real answer, you guys? I want you to comment down below, somewhere in the middle. So you would do that again.
I don't know. I was pretty angry.
So you would do that again.
Well, obviously I did that once.
So you would do that again?
I
Now,
don't
after
I
reflecting,
don't feel like doing it right now because I'm not angry right now.
and you told me you've done this before in past
I've done
relationships,
what before?
gone out the vehicle and going walking.
I've been kicked out of a vehicle.
So you haven't just gone out the vehicle and gone walking.
I've gone walking from a vehicle, but not because I volunteered. I've been kicked out of a vehicle.
Oh, so you volunteered to get. So with me, you volunteered to get out the vehicle,
No, with you, I left you in the vehicle because I did not like you.
and so that's how adults handle things, right? Not communication, not using your
But I
words,
left you with keys.
and children.
Hmm.
And so you thought that was appropriate.
You could have done anything you wanted to do.
And so you thought that was appropriate.
I needed some air.
So at that time, you thought that was appropriate.
At that time, yeah. Well, I mean, it occurred, so obviously at that time I did think it was appropriate.
And that's a problem, right? I'm asking him looking back, does he think that's problematic? And for me, I'm not going to lie, if you do that again, it still bothers me. Like, even I know we're kind of rehashing, it still bothers me. I'm a big stickler for effective communication, right? Of using your words. And I think This is just my opinion. And I feel like this even occurred when we were dating. I can have an argument, or I should say disagreement, because argument sounds very combative. I can have a disagreement with someone and not be the end of a relationship, right? You know, I feel for Charles, if you disagree, well, it's like attacking, or you're gonna leave, or it's heightened for him. And I can still coexist with someone, although I may disagree with them about something. But what really irks my nerves, though, is walking away from a conversation, right? I get it when you're in your 20s, but now when you're in your 30s, 40s, you should have a good understanding of how to use your words and how would I phrase it? You should have an emotional maturity about you.
Would you say that emotional maturity ever involves extricating yourself from a situation where you might use words that are not your choice?
At the right time, right? And I think you're a mature person in a vehicle with children, you can hold your tongue, right? So I think walking away from a situation is appropriate, but there's context to it. Not when you're in a vehicle with your kiddos, two young children and a little toddler,
Mm-hmm.
barely kiddo. I think you have to look at the situation of it all, and you did not do that. It wasn't appropriate at that time. And he knew how much I was looking forward to that morning. Not only just a day with the kiddos, but, it was friends that we were making new. So you knew how much I was looking forward to it.
Correct. That's why I got out and walked away.
And that's a problem. Something that was
Because
meaningful.
you were being unnecessarily hostile to me.
It wasn't hostile. I told you I didn't understand where you were coming from. And then I was venting, just like how you had the opportunity to vent a little bit. It's like, well, when you vent a little bit or you talk about how you feel, now all of a sudden you're being hostile. I got to walk away. How is that fair?
I feel like you were needlessly antagonistic, and you were using the fact that we were en route to an event, and I wasn't going to derail that as some kind of a buffer to be able to needle me. And I and I just I I don't take confinement well.
Well, I'm saying to you that was not appropriate, right? And it's actually so bothersome to me. I know we've kind of, we've tried to make peace, so to speak, but it's still something that I think about in regards to how you handle arguments and things like that, right? Because I'm not saying you're not entitled to how you feel. I'm just saying how you went about handling the situation, I
Mm.
don't think was appropriate in that time. Jumping out, leaving when you're married and you have kiddos in a vehicle, that's not an appropriate response. I expect that for, a 19-year-old, 20-year-old talking, they jump out, and I don't expect that from my husband. I expect better, right? I hold you to a higher standard than that. And so that was a bit disappointing. That was a bit disappointing for me. Anyway, we could go on. This might be.
We're gonna we're gonna have to cut
Yeah.
about 35 minutes out of this video.
On that note, give us advice. Let us know what's a healthy way about having disagreements. I don't like to say arguments, but having disagreements. And I want to know, and I think you want to know too, like, do you think it's appropriate, for a partner to leave a vehicle when their significant other and children are there, or just give us some good advice in regards to our marriage, right? We're still growing and we are receptive of positive and constructive, feedback.
So that was our drama for the weekend, folks.
Remember, like and subscribe down below. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.